List 4, day 1, and we've got the O at the end of these words, and we're using OW for the sound. So we've got borrow, let's highlight it as we go. We've got borrow, sorrow, hollow, narrow, burrow, window, shallow, swallow, widow, and shadow. Now if you go back with another colour, you can see we've got a short vowel in some of these. So short vowel, we've got double R, short vowel op, sorrow, we've got double R, short vowel, double consonant, short vowel, double consonant, short vowel, double consonant. Short vowel, we've got 2 consonants, they don't have to be the same. Short vowel, double consonant, short vowel, double consonant. Now, widow, we're not doubling the consonant there. It's one of those words where there aren't many where we have a short vowel and we don't do it, but that is one of them, and shadow is 2. So let's go through and highlight the other things that we've got in these words. So we've got window. If you say window, there's no air after it, so you know it's just a W. SH makes a sound. We've got swallow with that W, widow with the W, and SH there in shadow. Now, the important thing with this list is to identify what types of words these are. So if you choose a colour, we'll go through and mark them. So we've got, I'm going to mark the adjectives in green. So adjectives are words that you can use to explain give more meaning to a noun, so they describe the noun. So we're going to do hollow. You could talk about a hollow log, so that would be an adjective. A narrow passage or narrow road would be an adjective, and shallow would also be an adjective. It's something like the shallow end of a pool. Now let's go back and do the verbs now. I'm going to do them in blue. So narrow could also be a verb. So these words can have more than one function. Burrow could also be a verb because it's something we can burrow, or a rabbit can burrow into the ground. It tells us something we can do. Swallow is something that you can do too. You can swallow food or liquids. Okay, let's change to red for marking the noun. So we're going to have swallow is a little bird, so that could be a noun as well as a verb. Sorrow is a noun, it's something you feel. Burrow could be a thing as well as something we do, like that you can see that little rabbit is living in his burrow. Window is an opening to a room, so that's a noun. A widow is a person, a female who's lost her husband, and it can also be a type of spider. And a shadow is something that follows you when you're out in the sunshine. You can see your shadow behind you, or a shadow of a building or another thing. Okay, so borrow is something when you take or you loan something from someone else. Actually, that would be a verb too. So we should have put a little v there as well. Sorrow is when you feel sad. Hollow is when something has nothing through the centre of it. Narrow means it's not very wide. To burrow could be to dig, or it could be a hole in the ground where a rabbit might live. A window is an opening in a room. Shallow means it's the opposite to deep. It means there's not much liquid there. Swallow could be the bird, or it could be meaning to eat food and swallow it, or drink something and swallow it. It's going to pass down through your throat. We talked about widow and we talked about shadow. So let's go back now and read the word, sound the word and spell them, and then write them. Now, because these words are 2 syllable, we'll break them into their syllables and then sound them by doing that. Spell them 3 times, write them and check them. So we're going borrow, 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 borrow. So you've got that long vowel sound there. B-O-R-R-O-W, 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 B-O-R-R-O-W. You might prefer to say double R in the middle. It's up to you, whichever you find easiest. Just do it. This is level N list 4, and we're doing the day 2 page where we are revising the OW for the O sound. So we've got borrow, sorrow, hollow, narrow, burrow, window, shallow, swallow, widow, shadow. And you can see in all these words we see OW commonly at the end of a word. It can be at the start of some words like own or O, and it can be in the middle of some words, but more commonly it's seen at the end of a word. So let's have a look at the other things that we can see in these words that you need to be aware of when you're spelling them. So you've got a short vowel in borrow, sorrow, hollow, narrow, burrow, indo, shallow, swallow. Widow has a short vowel, but we'd go widow and break that into a syllable there. Shadow is a short vowel, but we're going to break that there. It comes from the word shade. Okay, so let's go back, and you can see quite often, most of the time after a short vowel, the common rule is we put 2 consonants after a short vowel sound. So just be aware of, so they don't have to be the same, it could be an N and a D, they're both consonants. Atlow, otlow. Now widow here, just be aware that is only 1 D, so we're breaking it widow and shadow. Shadow. So we're not doubling the letter, the D, in either of those words. So they're exceptions. It's not commonly done. There are about 20 words in English where we have a short vowel sound where we're not doubling the consonant after it, and there are 2 of them. Okay, so we've talked about the meanings of these words yesterday. Today we're looking more at their structure. So we're looking at whether they are adjectives, verbs, or nouns. So you might find some of these words are just have one structure. So borrow is a verb. Sorrow is just a noun. Shallow is an adjective. Some of these words can also have more than one structure. So hollow could be a verb and an adjective. Burrow could be a verb and a noun. So just be aware of that when you're going through, that they may have more than one form in their usage. All right, let's go through and read the words, sound the words, and spell the words. So we've got borrow, B-O-R-R-O-W, cover it and write it. Now we're going to split, if we're splitting these words, we're going to split them between that double letter, so that may help you when you're sounding them out. So you're going to go borrow. So the O-R is forming an R control vowel, and you'll have to cut it after that. Whereas the ones that end in L, we're closing off that sound with the L, with the consonant. Okay, so we'll go through and split all of those. Swallow, widow would go there, we've already done those 2. Okay, so first up we're looking for some adjectives here to fill in these sentences. So have a look at the words up top. You might go through in your group and work out which are the nouns, which are the adjectives, and which are the verbs, which would make this a lot easier, and then try and do the rest of it on your own. Let's just have a look at how we go before you do that. Blood vessels are something tubes that carry blood. Now you know an adjective describes a noun, so we're describing the noun tubes. What would be a good one for that? Blood vessels are narrow tubes that carry blood. So you've got to find a word to describe tubes. Down here you've got to fill in the missing verb using a list word. So verb is something you can do. When I had a sore throat, it was difficult to. What's something you find difficult to do if you've got a sore throat? Would be swallow. Now swallow could be a noun or a verb, so you may find you have to use it down here as well. Fill in the missing noun using a list word. The something will fly around and hunt for insects to eat. Well, we know a swallow is also a little bird that likes to eat insects, so once again we'd have to write it down here. Now antonyms mean the opposite, so find a list word that means the opposite to lend and write it in. The opposite to deep, wide, happiness, solid, widower. Down the bottom we've got some common sayings. We've got something of opportunity, without, something of a doubt, something escape, and something heart. So when you're doing those ones, discuss within your group what these sayings mean, because you're going to read them in books and you're going to hear people use them, and it's quite handy to know what they actually mean. So use these words up the top to finish those sayings and then discuss them. Level in list for day 3, and we're looking at the OW making the long O sound as in show. So we've got borrow, sorrow, hollow, narrow, burrow, window, shallow, swallow, widow, shadow. So could you highlight the OW at the end of all of those words? We're going to go through and have a look at some other things that we can see happening in these words. So borrow, we've got a short vowel sound. Sorrow, we've got a short vowel sound. Hollow, narrow, burrow. Indo, atlo, oplo, ipdo, acto. So they're all short vowel sounds. And commonly what happens when we have a short vowel sound is we double the consonant after the short vowel sound. That's in thousands of words. Absolutely thousands of words. The consonant doesn't have to be the same, it can be different, like ND, or it can be a double letter. Now widow and shadow are exceptions. So widow, you've got only one D there, and shadow comes from the word shade, so that's why we've retained that one D there, and you've also got the SH there. Now to know that you're using just the W and not WH there, in widow and window, if you put your hand over your mouth and say window or widow, you can sense that there's no air after the W in either of them, so there's no H after the W in either of those words. Okay, let's go through and read the word sound and spell the word. So we've got borrow, B-O-R-R-O-W, and write it, B-O-R-R-O-W. You can break them into syllables to sound them if you prefer, so you go borrow, sorrow, etc. But don't forget to spell it as well, so you're identifying which letters you're using for the long O sound in all of those words. Now replace the incorrect adverb with the correct one. Now these are antonyms and adverbs that you're doing here. So the mast of the yacht widely missed the bridge, so you've got to find the antonym to wide, and then add, to form an adverb you'll have to add the ly on the end of that word as well. So you're going to have to think carefully to finish that one. Circle, then replace the incorrect verb tense with the correct verb tense. So work out which word is incorrect. The sick child swallowing the medicine quickly. What's the verb in the sentence? Is it in the right tense? Swallowing sounds wrong to me. It is the verb. So you have to change the tense, change the ending of that word so it makes sense within that sentence, and write the correct verb with the correct ending on that line at the end of each sentence. Fill in the gap with the missing comparative and superlative. So we've got adjectives happening here. So you're describing the log, you're describing the part, the pool, and the ocean. Okay, so adjectives, you usually add ER to mean more and EST to make most. So the something log was also the lightest. So which word up here, which adjective would need to be put in there? Well, hollow would make sense to me. If it's hollow, it's also going to be light. So you'd have to put the hollowest log was also the lightest. So work out whether you're adding ER or EST to those sentences if you're comparing two things, or if you're comparing a supergroup, more than two things. Now fill in the gap with the correct word. Your words are borrowed, borrow, lent, lend, loan, sorrow, sorry. So if you get stuck on any of these things on this page, you may need to work as a group, discuss them, and work out what the correct answer would be. This is level N, this 4, and we're doing the day 4 page on proofreading. So we're introducing you to some of the marks you might use when you've done a writing piece, so that when you do your final write or your final draft, you know that you've found all the errors and you can make them correct. So if we've left out a full stop, we're going to put the full stop in and draw attention to it. We're going to circle it. So I've done that down here. Not as good as in Central Australia, should have a full stop after it, and I've circled it to make it obvious for me. You know that after a full stop you should have a capital letter, and to indicate that that should happen we put 3 lines under it. So I've got the 3 lines under that T there. We're going to circle any word that is spelt incorrectly. So here you can see I've circled the E in Thursday, and then you have to write any words that are spelt incorrectly in the text over here. So there's one word in each line that will be spelt incorrectly, and that's where you must write them correctly. Now this, if you've left out a letter, such as I did in this passage, watch, you can indicate that you've missed out that letter and put it in above it just using that arrow. So do try to go through this passage using these marks as much as possible, and don't forget to write the word correctly on the end here. Now we've put an alert down here because this is a diary entry. It says writers may choose not to mention the subject. So rather than saying I woke up early, we've said woke up early. So this only applies to a diary entry where we often only give the information that is necessary, whereas in any other form of text you should always write in a complete sentence.